Hello and welcome to one of the podcast of The Odd Couple. This is Siddharth here.
I'm Arjun.
And I'm Dr. Sheesh.
Hey everybody, what's up, Sid?
All good, man. I just had like the best sleep today, so I'm like really happy.
Yeah, you were looking so bright. I was wondering what the hell there.
Yeah, no, seriously, he's glowing.
Yeah, I'm a morning person, dude.
Oh, that, yeah, I know. I'll see your messages at 5:45 in the morning. Thanks very much.
Yeah, that's thanks to my dog's Choco Fido waking me up. But you know what the irritating part is? Sometimes I'll be having this kick-ass dream and these guys will be waking me up and then I'm like, oh God, why can't I get back to that dream? Have you guys had that kind of situation?
Yeah, I do. But how often do you plunge back with like where the story left off?
I think it's called lucid dreaming, where you can get back to where you stopped dreaming. So I can dream a dream today and I can continue the dream next day and for 4 or 5 days, weeks together.
Bullshit. That is serious lucid dreaming. I can do it just after waking up and falling back.
Okay, let me put it this way. I can decide what I want to dream.
To a certain extent.
Let's say if I had a great dream, say something like I'm traveling somewhere and I'm having an experience or a particular dream that I had. Obviously, you wake up and I remember my dreams, point number one. Point number two is I can choose to continue the dream the next night and next night until I'm bored of it.
That is brilliant. Never happened to me.
For me, whenever I wake up in between a dream and I try to go back and continue that dream, it just never works. It's like, you just know you're awake and you just know come on, please, let's continue that dream because it was so cool. You're playing James Bond, But no, it never works.
Hello, dear Dr. No.
Yeah, it could be.
I remember my lucid dreams because I had to get over a lot of things because I remember, the dreams where you're on top of something or not top of something. Let me rephrase.
Those are called wet dreams, Arjun.
This is a family show.
remember the dreams that you have when you're falling off a mountain or falling off a building. So what I would do is I knew it was a dream, but I would refuse to go through with the falling and I'd just get up.
Oh, so you don't fall?
No, I will fall, but then I will just say, screw it, I'm not going through with the splat. And I'll wake myself up. But then I thought, okay, I keep saying, okay, no, today I will. Don't ask me why I have recurrent falling off dreams, but that's another matter. But so then I decided to just fall. So sure enough, next day I land up on a mountain and the car pulls over and I fall off this thing. And this time I decide, no, I am falling. And I fall. And then I just landed like I just jumped off a sofa. So it was all fine. After that, I've been falling ever since. Sorry, bit of an anticlimax.
But these kind of dreams, like the sensation of falling, I've had a lot of dreams where I'm late to a particular appointment. I show up to work naked or something like that, where I've forgotten to wear shorts or clothes or something. I don't know. These seems to be a very recurring kind of a thing. I think it's stemming from my kind of subconscious anxiety or because I'm a stickler for time. I'm not too sure.
Wait, do you guys actually really think that dreams have some meaning, or do you just think dreams are just dreams and there's some other purpose for it?
My take on that is that we have both conscious and subconscious part of our mind. Now, when we sleep, the conscious part kind of switches off, but the subconscious is still active. So your brain actually is far more active when we're sleeping and it's processing on all the information and stimuli that we have received during the day. And it kind of churns and processes through the whole thing via dreams. So whether dreams have a particular purpose, probably. I think we need to talk to some dream specialists and sleep specialists who study this in detail. But what scares me a lot is a lot of my dreams have come true and that scares the jeepers out of me.
Really? They've come true for you? For me, I'm not a person who dreams per se. I very rarely have a dream which I remember. So for me, it's never such a big deal to dream. I don't have memories of it. So yeah.
No, most of the people do dream, but not everybody remembers their dreams.
Correct.
I used to do this interesting exercise because I'm obsessed with dreaming and recording my dreams for about a period of 1 year where I had zero social life when I moved to Bangalore. So I used to wake up in the morning and I used to blog my dreams. It wasn't a public blog, but I used to, first thing in the morning, I'll open my laptop and quickly jot down the 4, 5, 6 dreams that I had. Because if I miss that 5-10 minute window, I tend to forget 90% of my dreams. And it's some vague dreams that I've recorded. So one dream might be something like I'm traveling in a bus. Second dream, I was being chased by some crazy kidnappers and they were going to behead my head, obviously, behead me. And then another dream, I'm talking in a very strange language. And another dream, I'm listening to this most beautiful piece of music that I've ever heard. It's unbelievable. It's like mind-blowingly. I mean, I've never heard that song before. And I understand why dreams have been an inspiration to a lot of great people to come up with great ideas. Like Larry Page of Google dreamt the whole Google thing. I mean, that was his inspiration. Or somebody like Tesla. Or even, I think even Mark Twain also dreamt a lot of stuff. It's interesting.
No, what you're saying is kind of like there's a lot of talk about why we dream. I don't think anyone has an answer as to why we dream. One, you talked about the subconscious, and that's the old Freudian theory of your subconscious desires trying to come in, and you're trying to manifest these subconscious desires, which was generally sexual, was what Freud used to say. And so because of that, people used to outcast his thoughts. But nowadays people say that some of what he was saying was actually true. But the point which you made about your dreams coming true, that is something, again, a rarity for me. And that's where I kind of stopped you off in the last place. Have you ever noticed any of your dreams come true? Because for me, none of them have.
Oh, yes. Dime a dozen of them. I still remember the whole Fukushima earthquake, which happened in Japan. I think this was back in 2010-11, if I remember right. I still remember I dreamt I was in this beautiful building on a mountainside, which basically was made of glass. And I was giving a presentation to a bunch of Japanese or Chinese people. They were distinctly of Asian ethnicity. And then the whole room rumbles. Since we are on the side of a mountain, I have these huge boulders coming down the mountain and going through the glass house that we are in. And then I'm running downhill and it is absolute mayhem. And obviously I startle myself awake.
Yeah, no shit.
Wake up in cold sweat. And this is like some 1, 2, 4 in the morning. And I pick up my phone and immediately I call my then girlfriend. I'm like, hey, listen, wake up. She's like, Sidhu, curse word. Why are you waking me up at this time? I said, no, I had this dream. I had to share it with you. She's like, no, keep quiet. Just go sleep. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, I was just happy that I told somebody and I hung up the phone. Then the next day or day after that, I think it was that morning, we hear the whole Fukushima earthquake and it happened in Japan and there's a tsunami and thousands of people are killed. Whoever I told that dream to, and especially my girlfriend, I mean, we broke up. Even now, whenever we catch up, she's like, do your dreams still come true? And I'm like, yes, sadly, yes.
Obviously not. If you broke up.
And I'm really thankful that not all my dreams come true. I mean, she's a very sweet girl, but I'm just saying, yeah, I'm happy that other dreams didn't come true.
But that's a solid premonition, man. That was like full on, like an earthquake. Not like, okay, I saw a cycle in a dream and then I saw the same red cycle and all. This is like Nostradamus scale.
No, it is. And this is something which I think is a little hereditary, because even my dad used to have his dreams coming true. Like he dreamt the Kanishka air crash, the Air India air crash.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he even dreamt Indira Gandhi's assassination and stuff like that. So there's a lot of dreams that eerily came true for him. My dreams never came true until he passed away in 2000. Only post that have my dreams been coming true.
Wow, it's like passed on.
Spooky.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have any other explanation but that.
I've never had anything as premonitions. There's seemingly premonition, but what I find fascinating about how the brain works in a dream is, in a dream, you're having a dream where it seems like the full 10 minutes have passed, where the phone rings in the dream, but it's ringing in real life. But the bizarre thing is, the sequence of events in the dream is perfectly synced to the phone call at that second. Unless, of course, that 10 minutes was just that split second in your head before the phone started ringing.
Or you registered the phone ringing consciously.
Yeah. So you're probably in your non-REM sleep stage and you're pretty much awake, but you're dreaming. We dream in both REM as well as in non-REM sleep. So the other 4 stages which are there, we do dream in them. And that's why your whole lucid dreaming, everything occurs in that stage. It doesn't happen in your REM stage.
But dreams happen in the REM stage.
The dreams which you are so vivid and, are so... you're in it and you have your sleep paralysis and all that happens in your REM stage, your rapid eye movement stage. But neurosciences do show that we do dream in our non-rapid eye movement stages also.
Okay.
But they are not as vivid as your rapid eye movement. So what you talked about lucid dreams, what they've realized in today's studies is that basically what they did was they take a person in for a study and they tell him that, okay, you know what, clench your fist. Now they make him clench his fist and they map the brain, how the brain functions when he's clenching his fist. Now they tell this person who has lucid dreams, that is, he can control his dreams, to go into his dream and clench your fist while you're dreaming. And he's able to go into his dream and he's able to do it. So when he does that, the brain mapping which they do shows the same mapping as what it was before the dream. So which means that he's able to dream what he wants to dream.
Wow. So in his dream, he's just gone into his dream, decided to clench his fist, and the same brainwave just showed up as when he clenched in real life.
In real life.
This is like Morpheus watching Neo in Matrix.
Yeah.
That's interesting, man.
So for me, that's the interesting part about it, because you got one aspect of it which is what Sid is talking about, which is like it being mystical and stuff which we don't understand about it. But the other side of it, the scientific part of it, is also still not understood. There's a lot of parts which we don't, and only now we're realizing that the non-REM stage also, people do dream in that stage.
Very interesting.
So what you're talking about, Arjun, about you perceiving the phone ringing, is because you're probably not fully asleep, and so you're getting that external stimuli still from outside while you're still playing with your dream, So it's very interesting, actually.
It's just that how it fits into the narrative.
Yeah. There are other studies which are done, So basically what they say is that in the non-REM stage, you are compressing all the facts which you've assimilated for the day. You're trying to basically solve whatever you've been doing through the day as easy as possible. Okay? And the difference between the non-REM and the REM, what they say is that in the non-REM, you're just compressing and trying to figure out easy ways to solve the problem. But when you get into the REM stage is literally like a simulator. So it's like you're actually living in that moment and trying to figure out how to do it. And that's why your body puts you into a paralysis, because it's a simulator for you. So how many times have you probably, in your dream, you would have realized that you are aggressive and, you punch somebody, and then you wake up that you're punching or you're doing something like that.
Oh, I actually punched my mom once like that. And thank God she sleeps with a pillow next to her stomach. And I woke up and I just punched into her gut. I got so scared. I'm like, oh my God. And my mom woke up with a shock. But what if she didn't have that pillow? It was crazy. I mean, yeah.
So that's our mind actually practicing the fight or flight syndrome. We're doing that actually over there. So we're practicing it in a simulator. So if that scenario happens in your real life, you're actually prepared for that moment, whether you're going to run from it or you're going to fight it.
Interesting. Okay, I do see connection between the dreams that I have after a stressful day and dreams I have after a night of intoxication versus dreams I have after a very normal day.
Do you dream after drinking?
Oh yeah, I dream all the time.
Wow, man, I never dreamed anything then.
I wake up thinking I had great dreams after drinking, but then it turns out they weren't dreams.
And neither was it great.
Okay, but Sid, you were saying?
Yeah, so the thing is, if I have a very stressful day, I realize that my dreams are far more disturbing. Like you said, no, like either I'm falling or I'm being attacked by somebody or being chased by someone. Especially for me, I have this dream where there's a bunch of tigers on the prowl hunting me down. Tigers, not LTTE, but actual tigers. And I'm not kidding. It is just so scary, and I'm in this abandoned jungle resort of sorts, and I'm trying to hide in one room, and I can hear the tiger sniffing me down.
Wait, this is recurring.
This is recurring. This happens time and time again every time I have a very stressful day.
This is like a primitive,
That's exactly what you said. No, by fight or flight.
yeah.
And there's no point in fighting a tiger. But when I have a very happy, good, normal day, my dreams are extremely far more powerful, let me put it that way. Kind of dreams that I had which come true. It happens on days when I have a perfectly normal, with very limited stimulus coming my way.
So they did a study. They took the certain guys. What they did was they would make them sleep and then interrupt them during the non-REM stage and then interrupt them during the REM stage of their sleep to then see and ask them how they feel about themselves. So what they found was that when they disturbed them during the non-REM stage, the people, when they give them words, like they wouldn't complete the word. They'd be like, probably put like ARR and then you have to complete the word, or FE and then you complete the word, So what they notice is when they complete the words in their non-REM stage of dreaming, they actually complete them with really feel good type of words, very positive words. And when they disturb them in their REM stage, they found that they use really like hard and aggressive words and things like that. So what they realized was that during your REM, it is more your amygdala, which is more concerned with your fear, and everything is the part of your brain which is being stimulated. So you're more aggressive, you're more fearful, so that's why you feel that way. So maybe your dream depends on which stage of your night you're dreaming it, that you feel good or you don't feel good. So that's what they found with depressive people who have depression, right? They skip the whole stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 and go directly into their REM. Because of that, they're always stuck with these harder thoughts.
Interesting. I thought REM state of sleep was the most important, especially from a stress relief point of view and stuff like that.
It is, the basic thing of your neurotransmitters and all these hormones and everything are all brought down. So it's basically a place to release all your frustrations and all these aggression and everything which you have in a controlled entity. So that's why you find people who go into it will feel better. But what the study is showing, that you need a full sleep pattern. So it's like you got to start from cycle 1 to all the way and complete the cycle. When you skip the front part and you're just directly generally going into an REM straight away, your thoughts are generally more hard and
So what are the cycles of sleep? I mean, you mentioned 1 to 5, but what are the cycles? I know only of the REM and non-REM.
Yeah, so that's the two basic stages, but the stages are, stage 1 is where it's a light sleep. So that's probably like, you're sitting in class and then you just close your eyes, you can hear the teacher, but you're still just dozing off.
Yes, we've all done that.
Yeah, stage 2 is your transition stage. Stage 3 and 4 are where you're in beginning of deep sleep. Stage 4 is when you've reached REM and then you see the guy who's sitting on the metro and suddenly he falls off, right? The reason he's falling off is because his muscle tone, everything is now paralyzed, and so he can't maintain his equilibrium. Yeah, and so he falls off. So, and then you go back to your stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and the cycle goes back. But generally when we dream, our dreams can be 5 times longer in an REM stage compared to an NREM stage. So yeah, the REM stage is generally the most important part of your sleep. But it's linked with your primitive system. So it's all dealing with fear, aggression, and your fight and flight syndrome type of thoughts.
I've also noticed another thing is that we go through life by not getting 90 to 95% of our desires. Now, dreaming is one way to experience it and say, okay, and to kind of satiate that craving. Now, it might be an adventure, it might be travel, it might be anything. So it's basically like what we talk about spirits and ghosts. Oh, they are roaming the earth because of an unfulfilled desire. But dreaming, I feel, is something like that.
You're absolutely right, because I think I've lived all my desires vicariously via dreams. You know me, I've grown up on a diet of comics and everything. So my bulk of my dreams are all warrior dreams and flight dreams and magic dreams and distant land dreams. And obviously with the dream you have the benefit of living it really, no, because it's 100% real in the dream. So what you're saying is right. At some point it is a release of like, obviously mine are just highly unachievable, but I'm glad for some reason I've really experienced all of that via a dream.
So for me, that's the way I would see it. As you know, when we look at the dream, we've got to understand that dreaming is not just psychological. I think that was the early 19th century where we were thinking about what dreams are. We were thinking always about it psychologically, what a dream is. So what you're talking about now is that. But a dream is also physiological. We need to assimilate all the information which we have got during the day and put it in place, store it. So now we have something called the neocortex, right? The neocortex function is to take all this information which it gets from its day-to-day assimilation and then say, this is not important, this is important, let's store this. So that's a physiological part. But then we have our psychological part which is being played. So that's the emotional part of our brain. Now, all that information also has to be assimilated because that's part of our personality. So when you talk about you having a good day, a bad day, the way I feel, everything, that becomes the psychological part which is being assimilated and then, has a part to play. So I look at dreaming being both physiological as well as psychological. Only then it's holistic as to who we are, our personality and everything.
Absolutely true, because as I mentioned earlier, and as you just crystallized my thoughts on the same, which is when I have a stressful day and I have bad dreams, because sometimes we don't realize we've had a stressful day. Now, stress comes in different forms. It could be a lack of sleep, it could be emotional stress, it could be mental stress, it could be money, financial stress. There's a lot of things, something that we say, hey, it's part and parcel of life. I had a normal day. But dreams are great indicators for me to know what my stress level is. So if I'm having nightmares or disturbing dreams, I realize that I have extremely high stress levels and I consciously try and de-stress after that. And I also notice once I do de-stress myself, there's a change in the patterns of the dreams that I have. And that's a great indicator to tell me, hey, everything is back to normal. So don't ignore your dreams.
That's what you really have to understand, Sid, again, about what you said. Just the very fact you going through your whole cycle and dreaming and coming back, studies show that your mood is better, you feel better, you function better. If you're stuck on a problem, they say sleep on it. The whole fact of them saying sleep on it was because when you sleep on it, your mind continues to work. So that's what we talked about, these lucid people. So there was somebody who actually said that, probably lucid people are part of our evolution where we can actually work in our subconscious frame of mind. Probably they are the next level order. They're the beginning of a threshold which we need to cross. So that's also a possibility.
Thanks.
Yeah, you guys are super. I'm primitive. I don't even dream. Damn it.
Maybe he is the next level. No, we're on our way.
Oh,
who knows?
Thanks, guys. Thanks. I wish, but I've noticed one thing, Macha. If I don't sleep my good 6 hours, if I don't get that sleep, it's over. The next day is tiring. I really can't function optimally. So sleep is very important. That's why in the medical fraternity, earlier on, doctors didn't work with time frames. They were working hours and hours together, not getting enough sleep, and you don't function, you don't make great choices. You need to get your good sleep. And that's why we now have, if you take all these NAB, JCI, all these norms which come into place, doctors have to work a certain hours, because only then we can work at our best.
Well, speaking to both of you guys on this, and I realized what Sid was talking about, how because Sid pays so much attention to his dreams, and how he realized that it was a reflection on the kind of day he had and the levels of rest he had. And then you bringing the physiological aspect into it, saying how we used to talk about dreams psychologically and address psychological reasons, but then there's also a stronger physiological aspect. I think it's made me realize that I need to pay more attention to my dreams, not necessarily because if we're not equipped to deal with it in a psychological sense, and is this the reason why something deep-rooted? No, I think I should start paying more attention to my dreams purely on just a health ratio or a checkup, like a daily checkup. Pay attention to my dreams to gauge mental states or rest states.
No, what I would say is just start by like what I used to do blogging your dreams or just have a notebook dedicated. Just write it down once you wake up. It's just a fun exercise to do. And yes, you are right. I read too much into it. I remember a lot of my dreams. That's just how I'm built. Or not like Dr. Sheesh, who doesn't remember any of his dreams at all. It is not an indicator, it is not a benchmark for anything or everything, but it is definitely a part of something all of us experience and go through. For some people like me, it's significant. For some people, it's not, it's insignificant. And for you, it is cat on the wall types. So there's no hard and fast rule to it, is my take on it.
Yeah, I think so. What about nightmares, guys? Do you guys ever have nightmares?
I used to have crazy amount of nightmares. I think if you go back to our early episode of I See Dead People, I've had a lot of, I wish those were nightmares, but it happened in real life. But yes, I realized I used to I used to have a lot of nightmares when I used to consume a lot of horror, and I used to read a lot of thrillers, and it depends upon kind of media I consumed. But last 10 years, because I started staying alone, I consciously stayed away from horror movies and reading scary books.
You don't have the stimuli.
I don't have the mental stimuli for my brain to be overactive when I sleep. And because of that, I don't have any nightmares anymore, unless the only root cause being stress.
I never used to have nightmares, but I used to have disturbing dreams. You know, like it'll be like a sad movie, like a tragedy. It won't be like, oh, these are like, so there was no horror stimulus of that, but there were dreams of loss and tragedy. There was a lot, but then there was no overt stimuli. But then what I've realized is over the years, I can't remember a point from when, but I don't even have those anymore completely. They've completely gone.
Okay, I'll tell you one example of a dream which I had, and it turned out to be true. So this happened when I just moved to Bangalore in 2009. I used to stay in a place called Frasertown on Mosque Road. I was staying alone, and it was just like any other night. Went to sleep. The thing is, from where I placed my head on my bed, from there, if you stretch your neck a little bit, you can see the main door of the house. Now, obviously, like any quintessential Indian, we always worry when we go to sleep if we've closed the main door or have you switched off the gas, and those usual quirks that we come with. So in my dream, I was like, oh, did I lock the main door? I wasn't sure, and I craned my neck a little bit to see the door a little ajar. But this is happening in my dream, and obviously I think it's real. I see the door is open a little bit, and I see somebody running out of the house. And I jump out of bed, I open the door, and this guy's already gone down the stairs, and he's turned, taking the next stairs down. And I just see the back of his body, right? So I chase after him, and every time I turn into the stairwell, he's taken the next turn down to the next floor. And he's all the time yelling, just get out of this house. There's something in that loft. There's something there, just get out of that house.
What's in the loft?
Then I wake up, it's like 2-3 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, this is just another one of my many stupid dreams. I obviously crane a little bit, the door is locked, and I'm happy. I'm like, thank God it was only a dream, and I slept.
What's in the loft?
Now, next day morning, this is where my habit of blogging my dreams come into play. I was blogging my dreams, so this is one of the 5-6 dreams that I had. And I'm blogging, I'm like, hey, oh yeah, I dreamt about this. And I'm like, okay, what's in that loft? And there's a loft right above my on the room, and I've never opened it.
What's in the loft?
What's in the loft?
I pull up a chair. There's nothing in the loft, but there's something far behind which I can't reach. So I put my hand.
Tell me it was cash.
No, it was a box, and I was wishing. I'm like, what? Is it a box of cash? But this box was covered in satin kind of a cloth, and it was tied up. And I pull this box out, and it's like old. It's like fully dusty and stuff. And I come out and I untie it. I see there's some kind of Arabic writing on it. So my landlord who owned that house was a Muslim. So I thought, okay, probably she left this. It was obviously a Quran, a very old Quran. Oh, that's what I thought. So I called her up. I'm like, ma'am, listen, I found this thing, so I've kept it safely. But that night itself, I decided I'm going to vacate that house because everything was connecting and this didn't seem like a very holy.
You didn't get a good vibe, basically.
Yeah, it's just like a little strange. So immediately I decided to move out. Then cut to the day I'm leaving the house. So the landlady comes in and I said, hey, listen, by the way, I found something of yours. I've kept it safely. She's like, oh, what did you find? Then she yells at the person, the caretaker. He's like, I thought you cleaned the whole house. He's like, yeah, I did. I said, no, there's something in that loft which I've kept. And this guy goes there. He comes back fully white-faced, like blood drained out of his skin. He was whispering something and everybody was like getting really worried. Apparently, somebody had placed that as a black magic kind of a thing.
Oh.
And then I'm connecting all my dream, the one which I had, and yeah, that is like spookily scary dream.
That is very scary.
So on that note, guys,
Yeah, good one.
don't ignore your dreams.
Don't ever ignore your dreams.
Yeah.
I still think it was cash, macha. That guy Chumma told you it's something black woman and he took all the money.
I
and whatever.
no, I opened it. No.
Oh shit, you did, yeah?
Yeah, I thought it was cash, so I opened it. It wasn't.
So what was there inside?
It was some kind of a carved wooden chest kind of a thing which had a lock, and you open it, there's some book with inscriptions in Arabic and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure what it was, but it scared the jeepers out of the rest of the people who came and saw it. They were amazed that nothing had happened to them.
Okay, that scared the crap out of me. I know we started talking about dreams, but Dr. Sheesh took it on to nightmares. Sid finished with a fantastic nightmare. I hope everyone does manage to sleep. Thanks for listening. Sweet dreams.
Thank you so much for listening to The Odd Couple. Do check us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Do subscribe, share, and do let us know what topics you'd like to hear us talk more about. We love hearing your feedback. This is Siddharth.
I'm Arjun.
This is Dr. Sheesh. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.